skill for skill, none of these guys can mess with me. Like, nobody. Like, I feel like my skills is way better than like Floyd. Like if I'm on my game. Well, yeah, I take that back. Probably hand in hand.
In boxing, confidence is often confused with noise. Many fighters speak loudly, declare dominance, and promise destruction only to crumble when resistance appears. Gervonta Tank Davis exists on the opposite end of that spectrum. His confidence does not need volume. It operates quietly, steadily, and with a sense of inevitability that unsettles opponents long before the opening bell. What makes Tank's self-belief different is its origin. It isn't borrowed from promotion or manufactured by hype. It was built through repetition, years of discipline, hard sparring, and moments where failure was not an option. When Tank expresses certainty about his abilities, it reflects a fighter who has tested himself against pressure and emerged stronger. From a technical perspective, Tank Davis is one of the most refined boxers of the modern era. His balance allows him to remain composed even while throwing power shots. His footwork enables him to shift angles without losing positioning. Most importantly, his timing allows him to strike when opponents least expect it. This combination creates an illusion of control, a sense that Tank is dictating the pace even when exchanges appear even. Unlike fighters who rely solely on athleticism, Tank understands rhythm. He slows fights down deliberately, forcing opponents to reveal patterns. Once those patterns emerge, he exploits them with surgical precision. This is why many of his knockouts do not come from wild exchanges, but from calm counters delivered at the exact moment an opponent feels comfortable. Defensively, Tank's awareness rivals elite technicians. He reads shoulders, feet, and breathing patterns. He doesn't panic under pressure, and he rarely overcommits. This allows him to conserve energy while opponents burn through theirs. By the middle rounds, many fighters realize they are fighting not just Tank's power, but his patience. This level of confidence creates psychological dominance. Opponents enter the ring knowing Tank does not doubt himself, and doubt is contagious. Every missed punch reinforces Tank's belief. Every successful slip amplifies it. Over time, this mental edge becomes just as damaging as physical power. What's crucial to understand is that Tank's confidence does not suggest complacency. He does not believe he is unbeatable by default. Instead, he believes in preparation, adaptability, and execution. That belief is far more dangerous. Fighters who think they cannot lose often ignore details. Fighters who trust their process obsess over them. For fans, this confidence reignites anticipation. It suggests unfinished business. It implies that absence has not diluted ability, only delayed expression. The tone is clear. Tank does not see himself as returning to prove relevance. He sees himself as returning to reclaim space. In boxing history, fighters who maintain this level of internal certainty often redefine divisions. They don't chase moments, moments chase them. Tank Davis belongs to that category. His confidence is not loud, but it echoes. And that is where the story truly begins.
Cause I don't never wanna, like, me not doing my job like all the way, like me not training all the way, me not, you know? So that's what made me like. So I was supposed to been in camp, you know, and I wasn't in camp. So all right.
Oh, okay.
It pissed me off so bad that I was like, all right, I don't even want to fight.
I get what you're saying.
And me, I just said, like, not even thinking, like me, like, you know, having that, I go straight to the.
In boxing, silence is rarely empty. When a fighter disappears from the spotlight, the absence invites speculation, judgment, and assumption. For Gervonta Tank Davis, this period away from the ring was not defined by inactivity, but by internal conflict, the kind that rarely makes headlines but determines careers. At the highest level, boxing is not only a physical contest. It is a routine-driven profession. Fighters operate within tightly controlled systems. Training schedules, sparring cycles, nutritional discipline, and mental preparation. When that structure is disrupted, even elite champions feel unbalanced. For Tank, frustration began when that rhythm was broken. Momentum is currency in boxing. Every fight builds on the last. Confidence sharpens through consistency. When preparation is interrupted, fighters are left wrestling not just with opponents, but with doubt. Tank openly acknowledging anger during this period reveals how deeply that disruption affected him. This wasn't a lack of desire, it was the opposite. It was the frustration of a fighter who wanted to perform but couldn't align circumstances with intention. Anger in boxing is often misunderstood. To outsiders, it appears reckless or emotional. In reality, controlled anger is fuel. Uncontrolled anger is corrosion. Tank's challenge was navigating that emotion without allowing it to sabotage discipline. When fighters feel derailed, they face a critical choice: force progress and risk collapse, or step back and recalibrate. Public reaction during this phase was unforgiving. Boxing audiences are conditioned to expect constant visibility. Silence is interpreted as weakness. Questions multiplied. Critics questioned commitment. Analysts speculated decline. Fans worried whether distractions had finally overtaken discipline. But the reality was far more complex. Frustration does not signal surrender. It signals resistance. Fighters who no longer care fade quietly, detached from outcomes. Fighters who feel anger are still invested. Tank's frustration revealed that boxing still mattered deeply to him, perhaps more than ever. Another layer to this period was identity. For years, Tank's identity had been tied to competition, preparation, and performance. When that cycle stalled, it created psychological tension. Fighters often struggle during pauses because the sport has structured their lives since childhood. Removing that structure forces introspection, and introspection can be uncomfortable. This is where many careers quietly end. Fighters drift. Discipline softens. Motivation fades. But Tank did not drift. Instead, he confronted that frustration head-on. He acknowledged it rather than denying it. That honesty marked a turning point. Boxing history shows a pattern. Some of the most dominant returns come after moments of internal reckoning. Fighters reassess priorities, refocus goals, and strip away distractions. The absence becomes a reset rather than an escape. For Tank, this period functioned as a pressure chamber, compressing emotion, refining purpose. It also exposed the harsh reality of modern boxing culture. Fighters are expected to be constantly available, constantly performing, constantly entertaining. There is little room for human processing. Tank's transparency challenged that expectation. He did not present himself as invulnerable. He presented himself as real. That authenticity altered the narrative for those paying attention. Instead of a fighter avoiding competition, this became the story of a champion recalibrating his relationship with the sport. The anger wasn't directed at boxing, it was directed at circumstances that interfered with preparation. This distinction matters. Fighters who resent the sport rarely return with clarity. Fighters who resent obstacles often return sharpened. Tank's frustration aligned with the latter. Psychologically, this phase likely strengthened him. It forced patience. It demanded self-control. It tested whether his motivation was external or internal. Those tests often separate fighters who rely on hype from those who rely on identity. By stepping back rather than forcing a compromised return, Tank preserved something invaluable: his standards. Champions who lower standards for convenience often lose themselves. Tank chose discomfort over compromise. The silence, therefore, was not absence. It was incubation. When fighters emerge from such periods, they do so with either clarity or confusion. The signs surrounding Tank suggest clarity. The anger has cooled into focus. The frustration has been processed rather than suppressed. That emotional work often goes unseen, but it determines whether a comeback becomes meaningful or disastrous. This phase reshaped expectations. It reframed Tank not as a fighter avoiding challenges, but as one refusing to rush a return without alignment. That distinction changes how the future is viewed. Boxing does not reward haste. It rewards timing. And for Tank Davis, timing has always been his greatest weapon, both inside the ring and outside it. This chapter of frustration did not weaken his story. It deepened it.
The world look at you. It's almost like we already knew that. Like, I remember your last fight at on Pennsylvania Avenue at Shake and Beat.
Yeah.
I remember that. Like, this is years ago, right? So it's like it's kind of like we already knew what was going on. So like, do you ever reflect on it, like, man, like, I came a long way, or was it still just like, nah, I gotta continue to level up?
Yeah, just like me gotta continue to level up. It's never like...
Every elite fighter eventually reaches a moment where winning is no longer the only measure of success. For Gervonta Tank Davis, that moment arrived not with defeat, but with reflection. After years of dominance, attention, and expectation, the focus began to shift inward. The question was no longer, can I win? It became, what does my career ultimately represent? This stage of a fighter's journey is often misunderstood. Observers interpret reflection as hesitation, maturity as decline. In reality, this phase separates fighters who burn brightly and fade from those who evolve into lasting figures in boxing history. Tank's mindset during this period reflects a champion aware of the weight his decisions now carry. Earlier in his career, momentum dictated movement. Fights came quickly. Confidence grew rapidly. Risk felt manageable. But with success comes responsibility, not just to fans, but to oneself. Tank reached a point where every bout, every preparation cycle, and every public move would influence how his legacy is written. What stands out is his emphasis on growth rather than preservation. Many fighters at this stage attempt to protect their record, carefully managing opposition and visibility. Tank's perspective appears different. He speaks about leveling up and acknowledgement that even champions must continue refining craft, mindset, and discipline. This awareness is critical in boxing. The sport evolves constantly. Styles shift. Younger fighters emerge with hunger and innovation. Champions who fail to adapt are overtaken quickly. Tank's recognition of this reality suggests he is not clinging to past success, but preparing for future challenges. Humility plays a central role here. Despite his accomplishments, Tank does not frame himself as a finished product. Instead, he approaches boxing as a continuous process. This humility is not performative, it is strategic. Fighters who believe they have mastered the sport often stop listening. Those who remain students continue winning. Self-reflection also brings honesty. Tank appears aware of both strengths and vulnerabilities. He understands that power alone is not enough to sustain longevity. Discipline, preparation, and mental clarity become increasingly important as physical advantages narrow over time. This stage also forces confrontation with time. Boxing is unforgiving in its pace. Careers are short. Windows close suddenly. Tank's mindset reflects an understanding that remaining elite requires intentional planning. Timing becomes as important as talent. Legacy thinking introduces patience. Instead of chasing immediate validation, decisions are weighed against long-term impact. This patience is often mistaken for inactivity, but it is actually calculation. Fighters who rush often regret it. Fighters who wait with purpose shape narratives. Another dimension of this phase is responsibility to the sport. Champions influence younger fighters, fan expectations, and even promotional landscapes. Tank's awareness of his role within boxing suggests maturity beyond individual ambition. He recognizes that his actions resonate beyond the ring. Reflection also strengthens resolve. When fighters revisit their journey, the sacrifices, the discipline, the moments of doubt, motivation often deepens. Tank's mindset suggests he has revisited those foundations. That process strips away distractions and reconnects fighters with core purpose. Importantly, this reflection does not soften competitiveness. It sharpens it. Fighters who understand what they stand to lose and what they aim to leave behind often compete with greater focus. Every action becomes intentional. Tank's evolution mirrors patterns seen in boxing greats. At certain points, legends stop fighting for belts alone. They fight to define eras. They fight to answer questions. they fight to control how history remembers them. This shift does not happen overnight. It emerges quietly, through thought, restraint, and self-assessment. Tank appears to be in that exact space, between dominance already achieved and legacy yet to be secured. For fans, this phase adds depth to his story. It transforms him from a knockout artist into a thinker of the sport. It invites a broader conversation about what his career could ultimately represent. This is not the mindset of a fighter nearing the end. It is the mindset of a fighter choosing how to continue. And in boxing, that choice often determines whether a name becomes temporary or timeless.
And it's a question that I want to ask, that I'm going to ask because, again, like my job, but at the end of the day, bro, you cannot do nothing else, bro. And where you come from, bro, you legendary.
That's what a lot of people don't understand that when I say, like I feel like I'm a legend already. Like where I come from, where I had to go through to get here. Just like if they was to put me like in a like let's say what's the shit that we say?
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I feel as though that's cool, but I feel as though like I'm already like, you know, I'm already solidified type shit.
To understand Gervonta Tank Davis at his core, one must look beyond titles, rankings, and highlight reels. His true foundation was built long before professional boxing, long before sold-out arenas, and long before global recognition. It was built in an environment where survival demanded resilience and where ambition often had to fight for space. Growing up in challenging circumstances shapes a fighter differently. It creates urgency. It teaches awareness. It instills an understanding that opportunities are rare and must be seized. For Tank, boxing was not simply a sport, it was structure, escape, and possibility combined into one path. This background continues to define his approach. Fighters who come from struggle rarely forget it, no matter how far they rise. The memory of limitation sharpens appreciation for progress. It also builds psychological armor. Pressure inside the ring feels different when life outside it has already demanded strength. Tank's sense of identity is deeply tied to where he started. That connection grounds him. It prevents detachment from reality, even when fame amplifies expectations. He carries the understanding that success is not guaranteed, it is earned daily. This awareness also explains his resilience during periods of uncertainty. Fighters who have navigated hardship early develop coping mechanisms that serve them later. When setbacks arise, they don't panic. They recalibrate. Tank's composure during turbulent moments reflects lessons learned long before professional contracts. Another important element is pride. Coming from humble beginnings instills pride not rooted in arrogance, but in survival. Tank's confidence draws from knowing he has already overcome obstacles more severe than most opponents ever face. This internal comparison fuels belief.
If they was to get it, they wouldn't even know what to do with it. Type shit. And it's like, I didn't ask for this, it just came with it. Like, you know, I'm real, like, people understand me because I'm myself at all times. I'm not no part that's gonna fake the fuck and shit like that. If I don't fuck with you, I don't fuck with you.
Yeah. That's one thing that I'm learning myself, bro. Like, just trying to learn the difference between being genuine, authentic, but still playing a game, right? And I can't really understand the game.
Yeah. But it's different with you too, because it's like you have to like know how to turn it on and turn it off. That's what I'm starting to realize too. Like, you gotta turn it on and turn it off, but you always supposed to be how they approach the situation. It's cool, like if somebody want to make money and stuff like that, you know, like, cause I know the outcome, for sure, and they for sure know the outcome.
You made a lot of us some money too, so like I feel like a lot of other people know the outcome too.
Yeah, I'm just talking about like boxers, period. Like, you know, they be trying to like, you know, trying to make that self look big, saying like I wouldn't fight them, knowing damn well.
At the center of every enduring boxing story is a simple truth. The fighter must still be willing to compete, to risk, and to evolve. In the case of Gervonta Tank Davis, the signs suggest a competitor who has not stepped away from the fire, but learned how to control it. This moment feels less like a comeback and more like a recalibration. The hunger remains, but it is paired with patience and perspective. Fighters who return with this balance rarely blend back into the landscape. They disrupt it. Divisions shift, narratives change, and matchups suddenly carry weight again. If Tank moves forward with the clarity and discipline that now define him, the results will speak loudly. Not because of hype, but because intent always reveals itself in performance. This would not be a symbolic return. It would be a competitive one. The story is still unfolding. The questions remain open. And the next chapter, whenever it arrives, will demand attention. For those who follow boxing beyond the headlines, the journeys, the mindset, the moments that shape champions, this is the kind of story Boxing Pulse exists to tell. Boxing Glove.